Hello everybody, welcome to another video on literature class 12. Today we're going to be discussing about the topic deep water. According to me, this is the only topic in your entire literature which has more deeper meanings when you go paragraph by paragraph than on the surface meaning. Again, I'm going to begin with asking you a similar question that I ask in all literature topics, that is, what for you deep water means. The first thing that comes in your mind when you hear the word deep water, try to fit that in the story and make meanings out of it. Don't just make any meaning out of it. When you read the story, you get more clear about the significance of the name of the title. Remember two things. You always need to remember the name of the chapter and the author in case you get an RTC, and in general it's always nice to put the author's name in your question and answers. We are assuming by now that you've given your pre-boards or you're giving some kind of English paper, so you're aware about what there is in the topic. So we do not go in depth about the topic, but we highlight important themes and points that are going to help you recall and finesse the chapter. This topic basically talks about the terrifying memories a child had, which he's carrying to his adulthood. How his fear from water and oceans have been carried on even when he's an adult now. He's trying to get free from those fears, and this is what the story and the theme is basically about in this topic. So the topic is about William O. Douglas. William O. Douglas had a desire to learn swimming since his childhood, but when he was 3 or 4, he was knocked down by a wave of the beach, and that is what has created that fear in his mind, and he has been scarred by those memories, and the fear of water has sinked in his head since that time when he was in California. Later we talk about the YMCA, where he learned to swim at the age of 10 or 11, but he still somehow cannot get over the childhood memories he had when he was 4 or 5. That 4 or 5 8-year-old experience was not major impact, but what happened at YMCA when he was 10, he was learning swimming, he thought it was safe. A big man came and threw Douglas in the water. He hit deep in the water. He was hit deep, he went down straight deep, he couldn't breathe, and that was that major incident which scarred his childhood because he was fighting to survive. There is an entire paragraph explaining this incident, how he tried to get unconscious, trying to get away from the fear, because making himself unconscious, he was kind of accepting the death that he might get, but when he came out, he started puking. There's an entire paragraph which has a lot of significance and a lot of deep meaning to it, which I feel like the ending of the chapter and this particular part, the whole YMCA experience, has to be explained very much in depth, and this is the most technical part in this chapter. That is why I feel like this is one of the complicated chapters in your literature. Maybe some of you don't find it, and that's great, but because this whole incident, why he wanted to become unconscious, how it scarred his memory, is going to be really, really important for you to answer questions related, and most of the questions come related to that incident. So far, that's what has been happening. At the end, you see how he has overcome the fear when he hires an instructor, how he goes from different lakes to learn swimming. Of course, that has been there, but you need to actually be very focused about the unconsciousness state he wanted to be when he hit the water. This is basically to do more with death. How this important point has been highlighted basically highlights the death part, which you need to be very clear about, that when you accept that, there is no fear, there is peace. When you're accepting that, you feel more calm, you're in a state of peace, and that's what his unconscious mind wanted to do. But there is terror and fear in death. They're two different things. So there is no fear when you accept death, there is peace when you accept that, but there is fear only in death. That is the line. So make sure that you are getting this concept very clearly, because I feel like this can be a little complicated for some of the children to explain these points, but try to understand and add it with the story, and that is the main part in this entire topic. So I'm going to tell you, when he overcame his fear, when he swam from lake to lake, he finally overcome his fear of water, of water, that is where this whole scenario comes in place. There is only fear of death, whereas there is peace in death. The whole concept is very important. There is fear of death but peace in death. So you need to kind of fit this logic and these lines in the unconscious state, or when he overcame his fear of water. This is very important. Now I'm going to explain it to you one more time. When you're dead, it just means you're at peace. There is no fear in you. Whereas when you feel like death is coming closer to you, that's where the panic and the death comes. That play of fear comes in place. Or I'm going to die, and there is fear. So that is what happened when he was drowning. When that old boy pushed him in the YMCA, that is what was happening in his mind. There was fear of death. But whereas when you die in death, there is peace. This is the whole concept, which is a little complicated, but if you think through it, when you put your answers really well, this particular chapter over and over is not that difficult. So also remember, another question that might come in this particular chapter is how this topic deep water is a misadventure. Then you have to explain the whole story of how when William was 10 he learned to swim and the incident that happened. You don't have to go in the logic of death or any fear, but you have to explain how the adventure turned into a misadventure. So not much more to it. Remember, you're answering what you've been asked. You're not answering more because you know it. Because most of the time we are like, we know all the themes and we know all the significance, the metaphors, the alliterations, we'll just put it in. Sometimes you need to keep it simple and you don't have to fit any of those things. Answer to the point. That's about it. Then you might be asked about the incident that happened at YMCA. Then you have to explain how he tried to, try to come up so many times. You have to explain that entire incident that you've read. There's a paragraph again explaining how many tries he tried to come and make a big jump and try to get out of the pool, but he still would touch ground. All of that needs to be explained there. Then remember the final point where he, instead of air, he sucked water in his third trial. All of this is going to be a part of how many trials he made, how he came out of the water, what happened at YMCA, what misadventure happened in his childhood. This is going to be a part about the trials. Also make sure that you're answering according to the marks. If it's a bigger mark question, then you have to explain all of this. If it's a 2-3 marker, you don't have to go that much in depth. Just stay point to point, because nobody likes to read big paras than you're asked for. Then you might get a question about how William overcome his fear. So then you have to explain he hired an instructor who taught him piece by piece swimming. He's made him swim in different lakes. Then entire point where your will needs to be stronger than the fear of death. This whole scenario will come in place, that there is peace in death, whereas there is fear of death. All of this will come in play. So kind of complicated, but you get the significance what the topic is about and what you really need to know. If you know all of these points and you're thorough with details of these points and the characters and the names, whatever are there, you are good to go with this chapter. It is not that complicated, since just that ending of the chapter, the whole experience, whole deeper meaning to it can be a little complicated. So just make sure that you're doing that bit really well. So I hope that you guys recall something and you got a lot out of this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, click the notification bell, share it with your friends, and we will see you next time with more English related videos.